Okay, this is result for the experiment M2. We go to the result. So as you can see, this is the microstructure of malleable cast iron, and this is the microstructure of gray cast iron, and number 3 is the microstructure of white cast iron, and the last one is the structure of nodular cast iron. So next, we go to the discussion. Differentiate between steel and cast iron with reference to their carbon percentage and hardness. So this is the differentiate. Cast iron is a hard, relatively brittle alloy of iron and carbon which can be readily cast in amount. But for the carbon steel, is a type of steel having a high amount of carbon and low amount of other element. So cast iron contain up to 2 until 4% of carbon, and for the steel, the carbon is contained up to 1%. For the cast iron is more brittle due to the presence of a high amount of carbon, but for the steel has a stronger than cast iron, and for the cast iron has a less ductile, but for the steel has a more ductile, and cast iron has relatively a low melting point, and for the steel has relatively a high melting point. So cast iron composed of iron along with carbon, silicon, manganese, and trace amount of sulfur and phosphorus as well. But for the steel contain mainly iron and carbon, other element can be present in trace amount. And for the question 2, on the basis of microstructure, briefly explain why gray iron is brittle and weak in tension. So the microstructure of gray cast iron is graphite. The graphite in the matrix is in the form of flakes. As a result, the tensile strength of gray cast iron is low. At the tip of these graphite flakes, stress concentration occurs, making them brittle in nature. So I will zoom. Okay, next we go to the question 3. Compare white and nodular cast iron with respect to a composition, microstructure, and mechanical characteristic. For the composition, the range of the chemical composition for nodular cast iron is carbon 3.57 until 3.83. For the silicon is 2.36 until 2.87. Manganese 0.05 until 0.09. For chromium 0.00 until 0.34, and the last one 1.91 until 2.05, and nickel 1.33 until 1.62. While white cast iron contain 1.8 until 3.6 carbon and 0.5 until 1.9 silicon and 1% until 2% for manganese. So for the microstructure of white, for the white cast iron contain massive cementite and pearlite. White cast iron derives its name from the white crystalline cracked surface observed when a casting fracture, while microstructure of nodular cast iron may be completely ferritic, or be combination of pearlite and ferrite, with a spheroidal graphite distributed in matrix. While cast iron has a light appearance due to the absence of graphite. It has high compressive strength and retain good hardness and strength at high temperature. And the last one, for the mechanical characteristic of nodular cast iron are directly associated with their metal matrix microstructure. They ask cast metric microstructure of modular cast iron may be completely ferrite, or be combination of ferrite and ferrite with parallel graphite discernible in the matrix. So we go to the conclusion. For the conclusion, the objective of this experiment was achieved. We can observe microstructure of cast iron under optical microscope and identify the classification of cast iron according to the characteristic of the microstructure obtained. Next, we are able to conduct the experiment based on the procedure given step. Other than that, we can generalize about microstructure, composition, and mechanical characteristic of the sample given. Lastly, we also can compare the difference between the sample by doing this experiment. And last one, we go to the safety. General laboratory safety procedure and rules. Number 1, student must arrive at each season on time with proper dress code lab, coat and shoe, slipper and not allowed. Students are not allowed to enter the laboratory without permission from the lecturer or technician. Working alone or unsupervised in the laboratory is forbidden. Number 3, bags are not allowed in the laboratory. Number 4, students are not allowed to eat, drink or smoke while working in the laboratory and are not allowed to run the experiment with their hands wet. Students are not allowed to run the experiment when they are sleepy or under medication. Number 6, read the instruction carefully and follow the laboratory procedure. Do not touch anything that you are not completely familiar with. Number 7, ensure that your circuit and equipment connection are correct before turning on the power supply. Ensure that the switch are off, the plug are unplugged, and the working area is clean before you leave the laboratory. Number 9, place the equipment, tools and components back to their original place after the experiment. Number 10, notify your instructor immediately if there is an accident. Number 11, keep the lab clean and neat before and after conducting an experiment. And the last one, keep the work area clear of all material except those needed for your work. Thank you very much.